About a month ago, here in Fulton County in the great state of Georgia, I was summoned for jury duty. And I've always been fascinated by the profession of becoming a lawyer, and the chance to be a cog in the wheel of justice was something that I was excited to partake in. To be honest, every time in the past that I've been called for jury duty, I've never been selected for a jury, and so I expected that I would make the drive down, which is quite lengthy, from here, the top of Fulton County, all the way through Atlanta to the bottom of Fulton County by the courthouse. I figured I was going to go there, maybe get interviewed, and then be sent home rather quickly. But that is not what happened. In fact, I ended up becoming the foreman on a jury for a 2-defendant, 12-count murder trial that lasted nearly 2 weeks. And that was quite a shock, particularly since some of the defense counsel and different people on the, voir dire jury group that was being considered knew who I was. I thought that I would just be thrown out rather quickly, but fortunately, I think I was chosen to be part of the jury. And thankfully, this was during a time period where I didn't have a whole lot of things booked. I had shot a lot of videos in the prior few weeks, and so it was a good enough time for me to take some time off and do my civic duty as part of jury duty. And of course, it was going to be a pretty entertaining trial, and I'm not going to go into the details, but there was a guy that got shot 4 times, and these people were maybe guilty of it, but I was able to become, part of the process to help them expose potentially some holes or some room for reasonable doubt in the prosecution's case and in the police work that had been performed. And, again, they'd asked, do I know any lawyers? Yes, we love Mark Gold and the Ticket Clinic and all the other lawyers that have been here, like Steve Lato, to tell stories. And do I like cops? Well, yes, we love helping the Cannonball Memorial Run. I've got a lot of friends that are cops. We've had a lot of them sit right here and tell stories as well. And both of those answers tend to rule you out of consideration to most juries. But, I wasn't going to go out there and say something inappropriate or something like that. I was there to do my part, and so I was selected. And it was a long and drawn out trial. And we had a video a few years ago from Rob Pitts talking about buying and selling cars on jury duty. He had to have his little phone mule girl sneak his phone in every day so he could look on Facebook Marketplace and do deals. Fortunately, in this case, they were not quite as strict, and we were able to keep our phones with us to look at them during the breaks and things like that. And during the process of the last couple of weeks being on jury duty, I was presented with a lot of messages on DMs on Instagram and emails and things like that about 2 different possible scams on Bugattis. Now, I've been always very public that that is the next dream car that I hope to take down. I made a video recently about trying to buy the red Grand Sport that had quite an illustrious celebrity ownership past, and that hadn't quite worked out, but I am always chasing them, and I appreciate that you guys sent them. Now, the first one that popped up was really, really interesting because it was, it's kind of the dream scam, or at least likely scam scenario, when there's kind of a reasonable asking price. And it was a $635,000 ask for a relatively high mile, mid 20,000 miles, '06 coupe in black over tan. Not the most desirable color combination. Black supercars, as I've experienced, tend to be the cheapest options. However, this was a relatively well-known car, and it was in fact the car that was recently sold, or at least consigned, by Steve Hamilton of the Hamilton Collection through Naples Motorsports for sale. And I knew that car was about a $1.3, $1.4 million ask. I don't think it's worth that, but that is kind of how much it seems you have to pay if you want to take down an '06 or '08 early 16 Ford coupe. And the pictures that they were using in these ads were the ones from Naples Motorsports for inventory. Now, a lot of times when you see these scams, there'll be some kind of placeholder dealership looking website, and that's exactly what was happening here. And so I inquired, of course, why is this car $635,000 when it's advertised elsewhere for 1.3? And he said, well, we're offering a 40% discount to get the name out there of our new dealership. And he's got a very generic John Smith Facebook profile name, and the dealership doesn't have much to it, and there's no real evidence this is real. And generally the best step in verifying whether or not this scenario or something like it is a scam is actually to send the Lemon Squad out, because the Lemon Squad is our sponsor this month, but they also are a huge tool in the car buying process, because generally within 24 or 48 hours, they can get somebody on site with their nationwide network of attorneys to check out a car in person. Now, of course, if the car doesn't exist or it's still in inventory at Naples for sale, they'll discover that immediately, and you're not out very much money to know for sure that you're avoiding a scam by not sending them any money. Now they had this elaborate like set up a reservation and give us a deposit and things, and that was really the scam, was that they were just going to take this and I wasn't going to fall for something like that, even in the excitement and the optimism that maybe I'm going to be able to buy something, or at least at a huge discount. And this was not a terribly believable Bugatti scam, but it was a guy trying to scam people out of at least some deposits on a Veyron. So that car, as far as I know, is still for sale down there. A lot of these cars just sit in inventory for months, quarters, years before they find a new home. I have heard that early Veyrons in particular are some of the most sale-proof exotic cars because people are having to spend a lot of money and they may want a different spec, and they're not going to compromise when they're spending 7 figures on a car. At least they will. I would always compromise, but I understand why they can be challenging to sell. Now, the next one was super interesting and actually had a lot of the makings of something that could be legitimate. And I appreciate everyone that sent it to me because it was a Bugatti Chiron. Now, it was advertised as a super sport, but it was really just a Chiron. And it was a black car with a red interior, photographed in a very kind of vague way in the rain, and by a guy wearing gloves, showing the key, showing some stuff, and it was very clearly stolen. Now, there's a lot of very interesting Facebook groups, if you want to go out there, selling cars without titles, no questions asked, kind of if you know kind of narrative. And I mean, that's very much what this was. And the original asking price was $95,000. Now, of course, the current going rate for an early Chiron is high 2s, lows 3s, millions of dollars, and not 95 grand. And in fact, that was almost immediately reduced to $55,000 and then reduced again to $25,000. Now, of course, we have recovered a lot of stolen cars, and I, at that kind of price point, start to get interested in just, I'm going to buy this car knowing it's probably stolen, which I guess may be illegal, but with the full intention of delivering it back, finding out what person or insurance company rightly owns it, maybe road trip it home to babysit the car in safety until we can find the rightful owner and then restore it to them. And so supposedly the car ran, there was a key present, I don't know how it was maybe acquired, and there was no narrative offered. It was very much designed to be a hush-hush transaction, which I don't know if I should admit to this, especially on the week of being on jury duty, even doing it from the jury box, but I was interested. And so I messaged this guy several times and never got a response. In fact, I was worried that just as it might have been an issue in the selection for this jury, people seeing my name on Facebook inquiries might mean they didn't want to talk to me. So I had some other people inquire and nobody could get a response from this guy. Now, again, I'm not exactly sure what I've offered to buy stolen cars on behalf of banks that wanted them in our efforts to kind of bring them back in because they've got bounties and things like that on them. I wasn't too worried about potentially losing 25 grand if it meant that I could make some great videos, have some Bugatti fun, and eventually get a car back to its owner. I think you guys could enjoy that content as well. But unfortunately, again, I did not get a useful response, and there was even no real sense in sending the Lemon Squad out. I don't think he was going to allow pre-purchase inspections regardless. And so neither of these scams have worked. I do have a line on a car in Dubai, but even then it's gotten super weird. A lot of the insurance companies that are covering these cars have become insolvent or declared bankruptcy. The government's bailing some of them out, and so selling them is not proving to be very easy. I have seen what look like some good deals, not all on cars that could easily come into the US, but there is one that we think could come. And so I am chasing that car pretty hard. Who knows how bad it's going to be? Probably terrible. I am still making offers on the Bieber, Birdman, Grand Sport to no avail. And maybe one day I will find myself waking up in a new Bugatti, but it wasn't through either of these scams, and it hasn't been through any of my efforts thus far. So once again, I want to thank the Lemon Squad for their support of the VINwiki channel this month and all of the deals they've helped me to make better because their inspectors get out there immediately to check out the cars and give me some negotiating leverage by showing everything that's wrong. Even if you still decide to buy it, you're going to go into it eyes wide open with a lot of pictures, a lot of data, and a lot of support from this trained and certified mechanic network that they've got throughout the country. So it's an awesome tool in the car buying process. I know you'll love it and you'll make a much better deal with the help of the Lemon Squad.